For Makarrata Garden Tarrangower, I opened up the way that I work as a visual artist to the community so they could get involved in the project with me. It began with a smoking ceremony led by Rebecca Phillips and the launch of a book list, a series of titles that people could read to educate themselves about Dja Dja Wurrung history and living culture. History doesn't start at the gold rush here in Maldon. It began forever ago, a very, very long time ago. So it's about writing the Dja Dja Wurrung back into the landscape. We had a series of talks about the brush-tailed phascogale and the powerful owl, two local, important, threatened species that I had determined to research as part of the project. We had Auntie Marilyn Nichols come and teach us basket weaving. There was a group of people that met at the Neighbourhood Centre once a month and learnt traditional Victorian coil weaving. There was a visioning process where people could come together and create the idea behind what would get made out in the garden of the Neighbourhood Centre. And they came up with a great plan to make a fire circle where people could gather with seasonal words incorporated in it and a food and fibre garden bed. There was also opportunities for people to buy Indigenous plants and to learn about how to make a nest box with the view to encouraging people to think about where they live, and even though it's in a town environment, they could still do things that create habitat for species in their garden. And the whole project culminated with a final smoking ceremony and seasonal feast catered by the Murnong Mummers. And we had Rebecca Phillips and Harley Jonolly Lee talk about the seasonal words that are engraved in the stones.
Utilising the land in a respectful way, so acknowledging Auntie Marilyn and her teaching of the weaving. There's a really great fire circle with all the names of Jara seasonal knowledge there, and it's great to be able to share that in a space that's made for sharing around a fire.
We've had some really great speakers around the brush-tailed phascogale, which is locally endangered mammal, and there's also the powerful owl. And we were really lucky to have Rodney Carter, who's a Dja Dja Wurrung elder and CEO of the Dja Dja Wurrung Corporation in Bendigo, come and talk about the country plan and what they're doing to help to connect people with Dja Dja Wurrung culture.
6 months of weaving, so it's been really good, and to see the results and the creative results has been really great. Hasn't just come about with Aboriginal people. Every country, and I've said it before, every country had weavers and they knew how to work with their materials in their lands. They knew how to make baskets, nets.
You take something as insubstantial as and flimsy as grass, and then with this technique you make it into something that's really dense and sturdy and useful, and it's really pleasing, but also I think it makes you reassess your surroundings in a way that makes grass a whole new adventure.
I felt like I was in a moment of eternity with all these people sitting around talking, sharing stories and sharing skills.
The feeling, the softness in the room and the welcome and the action of stitching. And
in a practical sense, weaving has been kind of a tool that's helped me in the world, just be in the world. But also it's just an amazing art form. It's amazing to have weaving as a skill that I can exhibit, and that every stitch I make is connecting to the ancestors.
Yeah, it's just been amazing, just, like doing the whole process, and, for me, and Ben as well, Ben's really passionate about learning about Indigenous culture, so it's been really great to learn these skills.
If you look in your history, you might find that there are different planks you might have woven with in your family, different styles of weaving as well, so it doesn't just always begin here with me.
Yeah, I was a bit embarrassed about my lack of knowledge about Aboriginal culture, so over the last couple of years I've been working hard to try and correct that. So this just seemed like a logical way to continue down that path.
The statement of purpose for the Makarrata garden is about connecting to the history of the Tarrangower and celebrating the culture that's alive today through creating a bush foods garden. And perhaps we could add a layer to that and it's a resilient, thriving garden.
And I now actually feel like I've got a place to start and a way of looking at it and a way of thinking about it that is going to be really helpful. And so then I can start looking at what the plants are that I want to have in there.
Thinking in plant communities has been really useful because I've lots of plant lists of individual plants that I love and love the functions of, but thinking about them as communities has been lovely.
I know the name of more native plants and I know more about what they're used for, and I'm more connected to people in the community who can help with ecological questions, and it's just been kind of amazing to expand my knowledge base like this, and it makes me feel so much more connected to country.
So today we've been creating nest boxes and we've been decorating them with some natural materials and then the nest boxes will be on display at the Bush Tucker Feast in a couple of weeks' time.
And also in travelling out into the local bush to see where some of Miles' nest boxes have actually been located and some of the success that he's seen in helping the native wildlife continue to thrive in this environment.
When you put up a nest box, it's like build it and they'll come. You know, you put up a nest box and something will use it.
A Dewan or brush-tailed phascogale is it's basically a miniature Tasmanian devil. It's a little marsupial that runs around in the treetops, eats little bugs and insects, little birds, eats eggs, and so they're a really iconic species for this area. And they're a threatened species, and there's something that is really important, I see as an important identity feature for this region. So.
And I felt that maybe it's a good way to start to get involved in the community and learn a little bit about the natural environment and all that goes with it, in particular the Indigenous history behind the country that we're on.
And the guidance of people like Auntie Marilyn and of Beck and the other people who've been involved in this has just been hugely transformative for my soul.